The relationship with a customer in the automotive service drive is very sporadic. It's very temporal.
Right.
Once every 9 months, the guy wakes up and gets his car repaired. So what you have to do is you have to make every interaction exceptional. How do you make every interaction exceptional? You make it convenient. You make it totally transparent so they know what they're getting, the pricing, etc. And you got to make it contextual. You can't be trying to sell them 15 other things.
Welcome to Retention Roadmap, navigating service success for new car dealerships. I'm your host, Bill Springer, and today's podcast is sponsored by DriveSure. DriveSure helps new car dealerships remain the go-to provider for maintenance, tires, and repairs. For information on how DriveSure can help your dealership retain more customers for scheduled maintenance, tires, and unplanned repairs, go to drivesure.com/dealership solutions. Today, I'm excited to welcome Ujj Nath, the CEO and founder of myKaarma. With over 25 years of experience in the automotive industry, Ujj has been a driving force in improving the service customer experience. He founded myKaarma in 2012 after a frustrating dealership service visit, realizing the industry needed to put the vehicle owner's experience first. Since then, myKaarma has grown into a leading end-to-end fixed ops solution, helping dealerships streamline service operations through communication, payments, scheduling, mobile service, and AI-driven tools. Ujj was recently named an Automotive News All-Star for his contributions to fixed ops innovation. In today's episode, we'll explore the biggest challenges facing dealerships in service retention, the role of AI and technology in improving the customer experience, and where the industry is headed next. So let's get started. Ujj, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Thanks for, letting me take part in this podcast so we can help the dealers out.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So let's start out with some of those challenges that are facing dealerships today. You know, when from where you sit, Ujj, what are you seeing as down the line here in the near future? What do you see as some of the more significant challenges that dealerships are going to face, specifically around customer retention?
Well, it all depends on how you look at customer retention, right? For a brand, customer retention is staying within the brand.
Right.
For the industry as a whole, it's staying within the franchise dealership. Because if they go to the independents, they lose all that revenue, the parts revenue, etc. The storm clouds that I see that have formed and I think will start now manifesting itself is we we saw a huge slowdown in sales from 2020 onwards when COVID hit, right?
Yep.
And the big issue then were chips and other similar things like supply chain issues. So other than I think maybe the Korean manufacturers, everybody saw a huge slowdown, which helped the industry become more profitable
Mm-hmm.
because the supply went down, the prices went up, discounting went down, but there was a tail to it, and the tail is now starting to rear its ugly head. And the tail is that when you have less cars being sold, normally the way it works is, during the warranty period, people tend to be loyal. They tend to go
Right.
to the dealers. And then after the warranty period, 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 go to the independents. Now the problem is that, you're trying to sell new cars, but to sell new cars, you've got to get old cars traded back in. And the old cars are not getting traded back in because there aren't that many new cars that were sold. So there's this catch 22 that's occurred, and people are going to start seeing a slowdown in their service drives. So there's only one solution to it, and that's that you got to conquer more of the aftermarket traffic, where 2 out of 3 that defect, maybe only 1 out of 2 defect, or if it's 3 out of 4, then 2 out of 4 defect.
Yep.
And that one extra block of retention is huge.
It really is.
It
Yeah.
cures all ills, right?
Yep.
So that's one challenge. There's another challenge, which is the challenge of technicians, and I'll talk about that later if we get time. But the main challenge that I'm focused on is, how do you get these guys to be more loyal? How do
Right.
you get them to stay on?
Yep.
We've seen in the industry many tactics, and I don't want to make this a plug for me. It should be any service lane tool, any dealership should use this. So there's a concept called, I don't know if it's standard, but I'll call it lost souls, where there are these customers who don't visit your service department for over 12 months,
Yep.
for example, or they bought a car from you and they never showed up after that. And then there are older vehicles that have already gone to the independence, so they're not showing up at all, and they'll fall in within that 12-month category, right? So what we advocate you do is you promote tools like, you know special recalls, any recalls that are out there, and you start campaigns on those. Because what will happen, and we found this to be true, and I'll give you some stats. The first time we did this, we were really poking around the fact that we felt like sending emails to customers and calling them to get them to come in for recalls was really very, very has been. So
Hmm.
we said, how about we lead with texting? And our platform's such that you can switch between text, email, phone calls, dynamically, but we keep the context alive. Plus, we can let you handle it in the BDC. So when somebody texts back, 6 or 7 agents get it, but we will manage the contention so you don't trip over each other like two of them are replying at the same time,
Right.
etc. So what we noticed was, and this is roughly speaking, the first time we did this, 1,006 text messages went out. That's 1,006 text messages. We got almost like a 30% response rate immediately in 4 weeks. And believe it or not, we had close to 26% of those respondents come back into the dealership to get their recalls done, which is a very high rate. If you look at email response rates, if you're in the 3, 4, 5% rate, you're high fiving each other, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But this moved the needle drastically. So my point is, use techniques like this, lead with text, but then you have to be really careful because there has to be like a waterfall. You start with text, maybe another reminder. If nobody answers, then you switch to a phone call, and then eventually, if nothing's going on, then you just remind them using emails. So whether it be that hierarchy or some other mix that the BDC manager has to come up with, but it's a real, and of that 298 or 268 or whatever the number was that came in, we did all their recalls, but we also got another $70,000 worth of customer payout. So people need to realize, and then I know dealers who are doing this. We can do it too, but there are services that do it. It's very easy. We've written a crawler for this. So you crawl all the used car sites. They're not franchise dealerships. Call them. They're trying to sell used cars and say, hey, 40% of your cars have recalls on them.
Yep.
Send them our way. We'll fix it. We'll send, and again, you can pick up their cars and make a milk run model. Like on Tuesday, pick up the cars, have it done by Thursday because the big sales cycle is Friday, Saturday, Sunday for used cars. So, and I won't name the GM, but the GM that's using our tool to do this, and we have a pickup and delivery module too, so you can coordinate it all. So the used car manager knows that you're coming. It looks like Uber, etc. He said it was like shooting fish in a barrel
Sure.
because once the recall is being handled, you tell them there's something wrong with the tires or something else. Nobody wants a used car which has a problem in it.
Yeah. Or an open recall for that matter.
Yeah, open recall, yes, they definitely want that handled. But I'm saying there's customer pay work that
Sure.
these guys are getting,
Yep.
and so you got to get creative. You really do have to get creative.
Yep.
The other thing is, most people have written off EVs,
Hmm.
electric vehicles, but I got to tell you, whether it's EVs, hybrids, or these modern cars, there's a huge amount of like work that'll come out of the body shop. And why? Because you go and you back into something or somebody hits you, one sensor is off, you
That's a
got to
big claim.
recalibrate everything.
Yep.
And it's a safety issue. And that, the labor time on that might be 1 hour, but you're charging them $1,600 to do that.
Yeah.
So there's these avenues, and it's not, I have this saying, retail is about detail. You got to get to the detail and figure out what works and then double down on that. You can't do these flyby 40,000 feet Mach 4 and hope that it works because then you don't know what's working, what's not working. And by the way, texting for itself. by itself is a huge risk, because if you don't follow TCPA, you make a lot of money and then some troll lawyer gets you.
Yep.
So there's all these issues you got to balance. If you're a service director, it's not complicated, but it's not easy.
Yep. For sure. Going back to the recalls for um, vehicle owners, I'm curious, Uj, if you have any data on, those customers who do come in and have that recall done, and maybe they're a lost soul, and the dealership winds up getting them back into the service drive. Do you have any data in terms of what that means for future service visits? Perhaps what percentage of those customers, for example, come back in the subsequent 12 months after the recall has been done?
So I won't lie to you, Bill. I don't have that data.
Okay.
But my point is I operate on first principles. We call ourselves a customer interaction management company, right?
Hmm.
And why do we say interaction management rather than relationship management? In my view, the relationship with a customer in the automotive service drive is very sporadic, it's very temporal. Once every 9 months, the guy wakes up and gets his car repaired, or the gal wakes up and gets his car repaired. So, what you have to do is you have to make every interaction exceptional. How do you make every interaction exceptional? You make it convenient, you make it totally transparent so they know what they're getting, the pricing, etc. And you got to make it contextual. You can't be trying to sell them 15 other things. You go to a dealer website, and I got ADHD. I go crazy. All things popping up left and right.
Yeah.
And you can barely navigate any one of these. And
Yeah.
you know when that happens? It happens because it's an inside out design job. Every department in the dealership decides, oh, I need to get the customer. So they put up one pop up, one message, one special, one this, one that. And in the end, that website is totally unusable. Do it like we do it. We flip it around. We work backwards. We use the Toyota methodology. We work backwards and we look at it from the customer's point of view. So if you make every interaction super simple, super convenient, and super contextual, right? It's only about what you're coming in for. Don't try and upsell nine different things. So we've done so many things in this space that I think accentuate that fact. For example, it was very hard to reach your service advisor, right? So we introduced texting for the first time. It was impossible to know what your total bill was going to be before you showed up at the dealership. We were the first guys to do mobile payments.
Hmm.
Then, when it came to transparency, these new cars, they have foam inside the oil sump. So if there's a leak, you don't see it in the garage floor. I'm not making this up. There's a BMW dealership that we record every phone call, right? So I was listening to this phone call late at night, and he was convincing a lady that there was an oil leak. And she said, "No, there's no stain in my garage. Why do you say there's an oil leak?" And so what we did was we introduced video and said, okay, just do a video walk around. So you make it more transparent, convenient, easy. You make each interaction special. To answer your question, I don't know how many of these guys will come back, but if any percentage of those guys come back, they were not your customers to begin
That's
with.
right. Yep.
You're better off and just go to first principles. It's amazing how many, I mean, I won't name the dealership. I've got my car in a dealership today. I tried to get my car late at night because I was busy. I said, just leave it with the sales department. Nobody answered my call. Even today, these guys don't remember that the simple building blocks are being responsive, interacting with their customer, telling them what's going on.
Right.
Just, just the simple stuff.
Yeah.
So get them back in your drive and then wow them.
Yep.
And if you do, I'm guaranteeing you the independents, everybody thinks the independents, they're cheaper, or at least they're perceived to be cheaper. That's not the case. They're terrible to deal with. They're worse than the dealer. The mechanic is the owner, the wife is the accountant. So if you call and the mechanic's underneath the car, he's not going to reply to your call. So there's all these issues. And then with EVs, I'm telling you, the other thing is collision shops. EVs also provide you with an exceptional there's such a high capital investment that you need to invest in the EV part of the infrastructure. It's going to come. It's
Sure.
manufacturers have invested too much money and time, and believe it or not, there may be temporary blips of administrations changing or whatnot, but EVs are not going away.
No, no, for sure, for sure. You know, when you look at dealership service, the dealership service experience, what are some of the kind of most common friction points that you see that causes customers to defect to independent shops, and really how can dealerships address them? You know, we know that, you know, for example, we talked a little bit about first service appointments. You know, our data shows that only 57% of customers who buy a new car from a dealership come in that first year for service. So we know that that's one of those defection points. But from your perspective, Uj, what are some of the, you know, more common friction points that are causing customers to wind up at independent shops?
So here's an easy way to enhance the buying experience, right? You buy a brand new Mercedes or a Lexus or a Toyota or a Honda or any car. All these cars have. I joke about this. I returned my GLS 450 only to realize that I could open and close my rear, the trunk door from the side of my seat. And this is when I'm returning my car. I figured that out. Imagine if I got a video, and this is why AI can help. Today with AI, I could record your bill, and you're the general manager of a dealership, and with every car that's sold, have a script, a text script, which tells you about the unique features of that car and welcomes you. So 10 days after you left, send that, and it's an avatar of you. It'll look real. It'll look
Hmm.
like you are. When you get a chance, you can go look at this. We have a web page called innovations at myKaarma.com. It's all our AI tools, right? And this will look like the general manager. And I'm telling you, you cannot tell that it's an avatar. And it'll tell you, hey, Bill, thank you for buying the EQS 450 Plus. Please realize that you have free charging at any Electrify America. And if the charger's giving you trouble, you can use the Mercedes Me app, and then a quick video gets spliced in. And all this can be done at scale. So if you have the EQS 450, it'll show a picture of the 450. If you have the EQE 350, it'll show you a picture of the EQE 350. You could even splice in different videos if it is different. And it'll look like one video. And the moment you tap on the text message, it starts playing.
Hmm.
So we're using that for our Takata airbag recalls because, there's 6 million individuals who still haven't gotten their
Yeah,
recalls done for Takata. And our video shows that if it goes off, there are metal fragments that
it's a
can
big
blind
deal.
you.
Yeah,
It's a big deal.
yeah, yeah.
So we even NHTSA is using that technology now. So it's a 10% lift on your normal response rate. So you gotta get creative. You gotta figure out how these guys will come in. And AI is the best for it. I'll tell you another thing that works for AI. People, the drop off rate, I don't know if you ever check that on websites. It's horrible. It's in the 60% range. Do you know why? Because they want to know everything about you. They want to know who your grandmother is. I mean, I'm joking, but it's so complicated to make an appointment. How the people that screw that? I'm not even going in.
Right.
And these cars are so reliable. You really don't feel the need to come into the dealership to get your first year visit. By the way, Toyota has the first visit free. Then they get about 60 or 70% compliance. So 30% of the people just don't even take advantage of it.
Correct.
It's crazy if you think about it, right?
Right. Right.
So think about this. What if, and most people make their appointments late at night. What if when you go to the website, it just says, click on this to switch to text. Now you can go eat your dinner and you're texting, and there's a AI bot that's saying, okay, when do you want to come in? And now you level load your dealership. You give them, the worst thing a service advisor can do. Oh, get here early. There's always a rush. Guess what happens? Everybody gets there early, and at 7 a.m. you got a line way out the door,
Exactly.
and you can't even capture the customer states piece of it properly. We
Right.
have another AI tool. What it does is it'll with the reminder, you get a link, you click on it to check in, and it asks you 6, 7 questions, and it documents the customer states very, very accurately. It saves every technician 10 to 15 minutes.
Yep.
You have a time technician is walking back to the advisor and say, hey, what's wrong with this car? What do I do with this car? and fix it right first time, which is a Toyota initiative, this is, you come in for three things, technician fixes only one because it was not documented properly. So there's a lot of AI tools, but you got to be surgical. You
Yep.
can't be, I have this famous saying, my guys in my company are sick of it. You can't fly at 40,000 feet at Mach 4. You do that, everything looks like glass underneath you. There's no detail left. You got to get into the detail, figure out surgically where to put technology in, and be careful. Like our chat bot, our voice bot, when you listen to it, our third prompt is press zero at any time to get to an operator. Why is that? Because no matter how good your AI is, there'll be a condition where I'm sure you've gotten caught in these AI chatbot traps where keeps asking you the same question over and over again, and you can't get to a human.
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
And
I'm curious in terms of you mentioned some of the frustrations that vehicle owners have when they go online to set a service appointment, for instance. And I'm always surprised, and it varies by dealership, of course, but what percentage of customers are actually setting their appointment online digitally versus, calling the dealership? I'm always surprised at how low that is.
yeah, by the way, it can be very high too. We have guys who are in the
Well,
13 foot.
what's the difference between what are the ones that have a high, digital appointment rate versus those who don't?
Here's like a anomaly in the business, right? You get these service directors who put gazillion capacity rules on the back end, right? You can't make more than four appointments a day for this and six for that and this and that. Some of it is legitimate, okay? Don't get me wrong. They want to keep a buffer capacity for walk-ins. But then if you ask this service director, okay, are you going to turn away a customer if they walk in? Oh no, 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 we would never do that. So there goes this whole premise of putting these capacity rules, making it so complicated that people don't make an appointment. The guys who are really good, they judiciously allow for a process of re-verification or sort of like getting it back in touch with the customer. So in our scheduler, when you make an appointment, we get consent for texting and voice calls right there and then. And it's the same number that confirms your appointment on which a text will come or the phone call will come. So you are liable to answer it.
Hmm.
Then the BDC asks you a bunch of questions, or in our case, we send this chatbot out which asks you a bunch of questions. So the customer states is much more accurate. Now you mine that data. So you make it easier and easier. And a lot of people reschedule, by the way. I don't know if you realize how common that is. So we send out a press one if you on the reminder that if you're going to come tomorrow. And let's say they don't. When you check in with a mobile check-in tool, we immediately tell you who all are no-shows. Now you can run a campaign on that using our sort of service connect tool, which is our BDC tool. So you got to put all of this together and just expect that humans are busy. They have very little time. Repairing the car is the last thing they have on their mind. To take their kids to soccer practice or get into a office. It's raining. It's too hard to go that way north, so I'm going to the office. I'll just cancel last minute. Oh, you won't even cancel. I just won't show up, right?
Right.
So the good guys have very good follow up. It's not about trying to get them to make the appointment right in the beginning. Make that easy so you can switch your text or voice anytime you want. So we allow you, when you show you the service advisor, to click on a button to call the service advisor. And we actually will call that service advisor because they might have more detailed questions about their car. Hey, you know, I'm coming in with my recall for the charger. Does that mean that when I leave, I'll have a new charger with me so I can go back and charge it at home? I got a level
Right.
two charger. And if that's not clear, the guy's not going to show up.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
So it's all simple stuff, Bill, but it's stuff that we sit in our conference rooms and we start conjuring up these scenarios, and we do what I call conference room engineering. We're asking this,
Yeah.
you know, saying, "Oh, I have the best solution," and the question we ask in our company, "Hey, did you visit the dealer?
Right.
Where did you see this problem
What happens when it collides with the real world?
with the real world?"
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. So as we As we wrap up here, Uj, if you could give, say, one piece of advice to leaders in dealership, service leaders in dealership looking to increase their service retention, what would it be as we are here in early 2025?
I'd say follow the Costco model. And what is that? That is just take care of your customer.
Hmm.
Make sure that you have a very so I have a friend who goes to who's been going to Costco for 30 years, and he says if it isn't at Costco, it's not worth buying. And I know say that tongue in cheek. My point is, when you go to Costco, you see something it's valuable, right? If you want to buy a microwave, you're not going to get the cheapest microwave, but it'll be reliable, it'll be sturdy, they'll take care of you. If there's anything wrong, you can return it. And the other thing is they study their customers a lot. So just take care of your customers. For goodness sakes, reply to their voicemails. Send them text messages on where the car's at. If they are running late at 7 p.m., have somebody look at the. We give you all the tools, not only us. Our competitors give you the tools. So let's not be like I can't be the only game in town.
Sure.
Everybody gives you the tools. Please just use them
Yeah.
and just make sure every customer that walks into your dealership, they're king or queen. Treat them like they're kings and queens. It's amazing. There's a dealer of mine who I love. I learned a lot from this guy. This is the guy who taught me about video walkarounds. He said, "Oh, I'm throwing my MPI out. It's useless. Nobody reads that 18 pages of paper. I'm doing videos." And I saw him doing videos on iPods, and it was really a very broken product. I said, Rich, I'm going to build this for you and then use ours. But this guy has a tagline. He says, at Mercedes Benz and Nanuet, it's not business, it's personal.
That's great.
And by the way, you engage with those guys, it is personal. They will they just react so well to you that people leave Manhattan to come buy a car from him, and he's in New Jersey. Once they buy a car from him, they never go back. I mean, they never go back to other stores. So I know there's a plug for Rich, and Rich will get a smile out of it, but it's not a plug for him. I've
Sure.
learned so much from that man, and these are the types of dealers who do well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really does come down to over time that approach really becomes part of the company culture, part of the dealership culture, and it permeates the employees within the organization, as well as it helps really attract the right type of employees who already have those types of values ingrained in them, and it just becomes a flywheel and reinforces itself.
Yeah, absolutely. In my company, I have a process called the bar raiser. I interview every employee. But you know what the bar raiser does? All it does is it does culture checks. Is this guy a good cultural fit? Because everybody else has interviewed him and cleared him or her. I just want to make sure that the guy fits our culture. The customer is king in my company. The dealer calls. I don't care if I'm on this podcast and my phone rings and the dealer calls. I immediately imagine that my payments are down. There's a mom with her Honda Odyssey that can't pay the bill that wants to go take her son to mini league baseball,
Yep.
right? So you imagine that and de-escalate from there. And if you have that type of a demeanor, a mindset as a dealer, oh my God, I'm telling you, people, it's so hard to get good service nowadays. There's so much useless technology floating around that you're attracting all these chatbots who will say, "Sorry, that's not a choice,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh my God,
Right.
who do I kill today?"
Right.
I'm sure you've been there. I've
Yeah.
been there
Oh,
so
for
many
sure.
times.
For sure. That's great.
Anyways, so Bill, anything else I can
No,
tell my dealer?
just Uj, thanks you so much for your time today. If any of our listeners would like to get a hold of you, what's the best mechanism for them to do that?
Best mechanism is my email, ujj.nat at myKaarma.com. Maybe you could put that plug
We'll
in
put that in
there.
the show
And by the way,
notes.
I reply to every email. And I get over 1,000 emails a day.
My
I reply
goodness.
to every email. I will not go to bed unless I've either deferred it so I can reply to it the next day or I've handled it.
Beautiful. Well, we'll make sure to put that contact information in the show notes. Uj, really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much. and hope to connect with you again soon.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Retention Roadmap, Navigating Service Success for New Car Dealerships. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.